Holla ballers, what's going on? It's Preacher, and we are back in the Proving Grounds doing our gold medal achievements. As you can see, I did have to log back in this one. This is my third try at the tanking one. I would have done it on my second, I'm pretty sure I would have. Unfortunately, there is a PTR and the server does tend to go down. Now, the situation here, before I talk about the mobs, there's not many varieties of mobs inside the tanking Proving Grounds, but I'll talk about them now. First of all, your job is simple. Protect your monk. Your monk is going to do wicked sick DPS and also do wicked sick healing. He has a renewing mist, which he will put onto you, and that will heal you for 70k every 2 seconds. So essentially 35k HPS. Your main goal is not to take more than 35k DPS. That's pretty much what you're doing from a tanking perspective. He also can renewing mist himself, and it will heal for 20k, considerably less. Your job is to protect him and keep him alive. You will notice that the environment is slightly different for tanks. They have these sort of struts, these protective fortifications around the side. These are actually very clever addition by Blizz. Cheeky monkeys. These are for a number of reasons. One, they are line of sightable not only for your healer, but for his DPS as well. Yeah, they also prevent you doing sort of silly charges and silly heroic leaps. It's a nice way of maintaining some control between the classes. So it will teach people to tank. Of course, the Proving Grounds are to sort of teach people and have a little bit of fun. It will teach them not to line of sight their healer or line of sight their DPS, and also that line of sight does matter. Now, let's talk about the different mobs here. Firstly, we have some NPCs that don't do anything, like these two here. They do absolutely nothing. They do moderately no DPS whatsoever. Then we have these golden guys, these ambushers. These are going to be the bane of your existence. I would label these as the top priority as well. You're going to do a priority system like you would do in any of these type of situations of which ones to kill first. These guys do fan of bananas, as you can see there. Yeah, it's a modification on the obvious fan of knives, is what it is. It's a very small AoE, but it fucking hurts. It hurts like a bastard. I'm doing this on a pre-made character, so you can take your judgment from there of what level gear it is. And it does get scaled anyway, so it's not a huge deal, but he is not in any epics whatsoever, not a single epic on him. The fan of bananas is the most painful thing in this whole experience. It's really, really painful. It's a small AoE though, so all you want to do is make sure you're tanking them in a way where that fan of bananas is not actually hitting your monk, and then you're going to be okay. The other mob here is this wind thrower, okay? It's a return to a classic, which is the wing buffet. It's called Wind Buffet in this one. And it will knock you back and it will reset your aggro. Now, whether or not it's 100% regrow, you can see it there. It throws you back. It's an instant taunt to counter that ability. I would actually range this as the top priority because that thing just throws you away and then instantly goes for your monk. The damage intake is not particularly difficult in the early stages as well. I will repeat again, I think the Proving Grounds Gold Medal Challenge is a little bit too long. It's not that interesting. You're unlikely to fail at this stage. But it will knock you away and reduce your aggro to essentially 0. Now, what do you want to talk about these guys, these casters? Your instinct is going to be to prevent that cast, and now I could have with a heroic throw. I didn't. These flames on the floor, if you stand in them, will increase your damage taken by 3% per stack, if I remember correctly. It works on the mobs, as you can see here. Now, you can choose, it's called Invoke Lava, to interrupt it immediately and prevent any of these lavas falling on the floor. Or you could do as I've demonstrated here, which is in fact lets him cast it and then interrupt his fireballs and pyroblasts which come later, and in fact stack up the debuff because it allows your monk to kill these things ridiculously quickly. You can see how quickly I cleared that wave out by abusing that. I will say it's a choice on your part. As it gets later and later into the Proving Ground waves, it becomes more and more inefficient is what I would say to try and make best use of that. But certainly if you can pretty much guarantee you're going to get 10 or 12 stacks on a mob, it is worth you taking 1 or 2 to position them. Not everything is positionable. These guys here, obviously based on the Twin Emperors. Now, I pretty much gave up on avoiding the ground slam on the PTR, be it it's on the American servers or whatever, or the animation is just flat out bugged. Ultimately, it can hit you from anywhere on the map sometimes, and I'm not joking. I had this thing hit me from the other side of the room after I had charged something. A few seconds later, he cast it as he was running over, and he still fucking hit me. The animation is pretty much bullshit. So I gave up. By the third try, I just couldn't be bothered. If you can move out of it sometimes, and it's fine, like you can see there. Nothing can be disarmed. I was kind of disappointed in that. I'm playing the warrior here, obviously, and nothing can be disarmed. I would like to have seen disarm come into it somewhere. It was always nice that there are the casters do chain cast, so you can do some combinations of pummels and disrupting shouts and spell reflex. Always nice. This is where it starts getting tricky. It starts getting tricky. Now, everything here is CCable. You can fear, you can definitely stun, you can snare, you can do all kinds of things to them. Your priority is simple. The Colossus guys, annoying as they are with their ground slam, which can stun you and cause you to die, I would still rate the Wind Walkers, or the Wind Throwers, the Wind Buffeters, whatever you want to call them. I would rate them much higher on the priority list. You can see I DPS them down primarily. You can see I was out of that. You can see where the animation actually hit, and it still hits you. So I was barely care mode about these Colossus guys. They have two abilities, the stun and an enrage. And enrage can be beaten pretty quickly. I actually just switched up my defensive ability from the shield barrier to a shield block. They hit very, very slowly, and they don't hit for a great deal. When they enrage, something like Demoralizing Shout is always nice to throw out just to reduce that physical damage. But my priority, again, you can see I switched over, was to the Fan of Knives guys. These guys really hurt. You'll see my health bobbing, especially when we have a couple of these guys going on. I'm going to get stunned there. Yeah, I'm still out of it. Tauren hitbox, yo. I still rate these higher on the priority. For your talents and stuff you're going to choose, short-term burst cooldowns are very, very nice. I went with Bloodbath. I also switched over to Enraged Regeneration over Second Wind and Impending Victory. Purely because there are times when the fucking monk... Could not have been more out of it. The fucking monk just will not put the Renewing Mist back on you. It's almost like a joke. I kind of found it funny at some points where he would not refresh it. And without that heal, you're going to die really, really quickly. And it's kind of annoying. And therefore, I needed a sort of a burst-on-demand heal, so Enraged Regen was better for me. That hitbox is obviously decidedly buggy. You can see I had him in this huge farm well over the top of the flame. Still did nothing. There's some various bugs with this encounter yet. Probably get fixed. This is still a PTR after all. Let's not get crazy. It's still the PTR. I would say the tanking one I found the most frustrating. The DPS one, actually, the damage one took me longer to do, but it was more fun and interesting. There was more things going on. With the tank one, not really. Not really. It basically came down to how long can I hold onto shield wall for. And when the Renewing Mist falls off you, as it sometimes does in a really bad situation, you're actually in a whole heap of trouble, because there isn't a great deal you can do about that if you're not a big self-healing class. You kind of just have to roll with the punches, but all at the same time, you're thinking to yourself, I'm going to need shield wall on the last wave, and you do. You need your big cooldown on the last wave, so you don't really want to waste it. You can see when it got to this wave, I just decided not to use Invoke Lava. It was not beneficial to me to fill the room with lava at this stage, and that was mainly because the wind knockback guys are going to be part of this fight, and they're going to knock me everywhere. Your main objective is to stay as close to your monk as possible without getting him killed, especially when mobs start coming in from all different phases. In terms of what it teaches you first of all the idea of using boss mechanics against them, such as stacking the debuffs up. So many people just don't do that as a tank, and it really annoys me. There's one of the 5-mans has that, where you're throwing the mines from the shelf, and you can totally stack those mines up on the boss. I never see anybody do that except for the top guilds. It also teaches you a little bit about priority, a little bit dealing about different incoming sources of damage, and it also teaches you about your camera, which I found the most important. It definitely teaches you about your camera, and you can't just focus on one mob. You have to be looking all the time for where new mobs are spawning. The waves are pretty long, so remembering the set pattern probably means you've done it too much. Like I say, this was my 3rd ever try at the gold medal. I didn't remember where they were coming from, so I'm used to using my camera. I'm sure some people will get used to this one spawns over here, this one spawns over there kind of thing. But ultimately, you don't really need that as long as he teaches you to actually use your camera, which I found the most important. One of the glorious things about being doing the tanking proving ground, I actually found very enjoyable, if a little long, was that it did bring back some memories of using various different abilities. It was really nice to do some serious spell lockdown as a warrior. I don't really ever have to do that anymore in raid or in 5-man content. I just do not get the opportunity to do serious spell lockdown. That's good. One big drawback though is Vengeance plays a major part. Now the problem is these mobs don't hit that hard. Really? They don't hit hard enough to be a major problem. You can see I'll go ahead and interrupt that guy again there. I don't really want the lava to play a role in this. And therefore, sometimes you're just DPSing mindlessly, especially in the early waves. There's no threat of dying particularly, and therefore you're just trying to do bad DPS all the time. This is exactly why I didn't want the lava guy. You get 2 of the Colossus, and you also get the wind knockback guy. Now, trying to manage 2 people trying to pound me onto the ground and a wind knockback guy throwing me around while trying to stack them in lava. Not really worth the effort. I'm going for survivability. You can see I'm going to do some charges around. Both of them enraged. Pain in the ass mode. You can see I finally put my shield wall. That is going to be the most painful section of this fight. I'd really recommend physical damage reduction over something like an absorb. In my case, I used the shield block over shield barrier. I also started to use some maneuverability to move around. These things do really, really hurt. There's no doubt about that. Once you start stacking these mobs on top of each other, they really, really hurt. And people are going to struggle with this if they're not managing their cooldowns properly, which is what this is supposed to teach you. It's really nice to also make the decision as what can your monk take. He's not going to die instantly. What you want to be careful of is pulling too much onto you. A lot of tanks actually do that in 5-mans. They pull too goddamn much and they end up dying. You do have the opportunity here to leave certain mobs on the monk for a little period of time. And that will buy you time to not die. You can see a little bit of kiting going on here while we spread those mobs out. I just give the Renewing Mist chance to tick. Shockwave is obviously kind of a must for doing this. Shockwave is kind of a must. You've got to roll with something like that. Not too difficult by any means. Like I say, 3 goes for me. No big deal. Warrior, kind of in the between. I'm sure other classes are going to have a great time with this. Gorfien's Grasp would have been absolutely amazing on this fight. I think DKs are going to troll it pretty hard, and so will the monks. Paladins shouldn't have much trouble either with their excellent self-healing, and that's going to give us the gold medal right there. That was pretty easy. Nice, happy time. Pretty fun. Pretty fun. Not something I'm ever going to do again, though. Alright, guys. Bye.